Howdy, folks. Happy Thursday. Well, it's happy here, not happy with what's going on across the ocean. We may touch on that a little bit because not the political stuff, but how it affects the world of hockey. But we'll start with the pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
All right. So yesterday, not Rob Manfred, but a spokesman for Major League Baseball laid down an ultimatum that if there's not a new CBA by Monday, that regular season games will get canceled. And so we talked about it yesterday. People can check it out on my Twitter timeline for our full press the game show, and we mentioned all that needs to be mentioned on that. I did also write on Sportsology how maybe some other people in the world view baseball, because look, baseball will never die. For anybody that's saying, oh, it's a dying sport, it's not a dying sport. This league may be dying. That is a different situation, but baseball itself will always be played forever and ever and ever because it's enjoyable and it's a great game. With this situation, though, as an example, we don't even need to get into like the nuts and bolts of it, because on some of the things they are so far apart that at this point, if the players don't give in, the losses are just going to mount up, because everybody let it slip to this point, and I don't know why the players thought it was a good idea. That's where Tony Clark made his biggest mistake, because he should have forced negotiations much sooner. He didn't, and now the owners have so much leverage that the only leverage that I saw from the other side, Mike, is that Bob Nightingale said, well, the players could vote for not extended playoffs, and that'll cost the owners $100 million. And I'm thinking, okay, if you cost the owners $100 million in that, what do you think players' lost salaries are going to be when they all of a sudden don't pay what the players think they're going to make? That's gonna be at like $300 or $400 million.
Right, yeah, I mean, everybody says it's collusion, but they can't prove collusion. And when all these free agents go to like January 26th and they're unsigned,
yeah,
and the teams sign them for 1 year or 2 years instead of 7 or 8, then the players will feel the pain. I mean, honestly, I'm not in this instance, because
we're not pro owner. We're just pointing out,
right?
This is what's happening.
Believe me, Rob Manfred is reprehensible. I think he's the worst.
He's the worst commissioner in the history of the game,
in the history of professional sports. I mean, he might be worse than John Ziegler. He's definitely worse than Kennesaw Mountain Landis, that congenital racist. But the thing is, the owners got the whip hand. They're billionaires. They can weather it out. The players are millionaires. They're the talent. They deserve to get paid. But in the mindset of the owners, they deserve to get paid what the owners will pay them. That's the whole point of negotiations. And if you get good negotiators, you can get as much out of the owners as you possibly can. But in the end, it's their game. If they're motivated to cancel a third of the season to break the back of the union, they will do it, and they'll win.
See, Timothy says in the chat room, maybe Manfred was brought on to get rid of MLB. That's not the owner's intention, but I will say there is a worry that you've lost mind share. They're already losing mind share.
Well, I was going to say this. Don't say it's impossible that this could happen to Major League Baseball, because, what were two of the biggest sports in, say, the 40s or 50s? Horse racing and boxing. Where are they now?
True.
So, baseball, they have a place in our in our society. The number of people my age or older that have loved baseball since they were a kid. That's the whole thing.
I still play. I love it. I play softball. I love the game.
Yeah.
But
that's the whole
year they lose people with just more things that they do or don't do.
Right. And that's the thing. They're trying to change things because they think that it will help bring in the younger generations. And I don't think that by bastardizing the game on the DH in the National League, all you're doing is offending your already existing fan base. And that's never a good thing. All right, let's start the show. Ack will be joining us in a few minutes. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Thursday, February 24th, 2022.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. All right, let's start with, well, this is like low-hanging fruit. The Edmonton Oilers and the Tampa Bay Lightning playing last night. And, okay, I watched the first half of this game, and I knew where the game was going. At that point, it was 3-1 Lightning, and it ended up 5-3. And I had enough evidence to back my particular point of view and what I've been saying as my mantra regarding the Edmonton Oilers for probably the last 3 years. They're clueless if they think that they're going to win with the goaltending that they have. And last night, Mike Smith, who admittedly, Mike Smith had a really good year last year. Not a good year for a 39-year-old goaltender, but a good year. His save percentage was in the 920s. He played really well. Okay. They signed him to a 2-year contract. Mistake number one. Mistake number two, they brought back Mikko Koskinen. They didn't pay somebody to take him off of their hands. Okay. They have a good young goaltender in Stuart Skinner down in the AHL. They brought him up a couple times. He's played decently at times.
He's in an in-between stage, though. That's the problem.
Right, and I think that they believe that, so they want him to play in Bakersfield and play it often, and maybe next year he'll be part of the solution. So you're stuck with Koskinen and Mike Smith, and we have seen them bleed points throughout this year because their goaltending blows. And last night, you know, the opening goal, the Pat Maroon goal, was a bad one, but the one that was the absolute soul crusher was the Stamkos goal with 15 seconds left to go in the first period, where he shot it from in between the blue line and the face-off circle along the boards, and it picked top corner because he caught Smith sort of deep in his net. And once that went in, you could feel the air come right out of the Oilers. I don't know how much longer. Again, I keep saying this. I don't know how much longer star players like Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are going to throw away years with this pathetic joke of an organization before they address the need that's been beating them over the head the last 3 years. I hope they keep doing it.
You watch this game like you watch the Ben Affleck version of Pearl Harbor. You don't like that version. And you don't like this team, but you watch it.
I like Pete Beckinsale, but that's all I can say about that.
But you watch it anyhow because you know there's going to be points where you're just going to be laughing at it, and that's essentially what happens with you watching the Oilers. Like it's
a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It's black comedy. It's all of that. Look, we know about the goaltending. They know. It's not like they don't know.
And do something about it.
There's other things that hold them back from getting it. We've gone through that.
Yeah, good sense.
But the idea is at the trading deadline, if they don't get one, they probably will miss the playoffs. That's true. Will there be enough games left at the trading deadline if they get one to make it? It's in question. So like even someone like Fleury might now not want to go there simply because he's going to be expected to win like 15 out of the next 20 something just to make the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I mean, I honestly, when we talked about Fleury yesterday, that's the thing. Again, he had a no move and he went to Chicago because obviously, you know, the situation in Vegas was, you know, he wasn't going to play or they couldn't afford him. They needed to move him and he agreed to it. I don't know whether the no move, it's really up to the next team whether that no move is in place or not. So if he has deniability, in terms of where he wants to go, I mean, there's no way in hell he's going to Edmonton because it's a cluster.
I don't think so either. I'm with you on this. I don't think he'd want to go there at this point because you don't want to go to a situation where you have to be the savior just to make it.
Right.
And again, people know I love Marc-Andre Fleury, but he is not the same goalie even that he was last year.
Yeah.
Last year he had a good run, but we all have to admit and say, regardless of what his playoff history has been, when you get older year to year, that goes with the playoffs too. And just because he was good last year doesn't mean he'll be that same good this year.
You put Fleury, as we talked about yesterday, you put Fleury in front of a good defensive, good offensive team like Minnesota, and they have a chance to win the Stanley Cup. And your prediction of them going to the final, I think, is that much more possible. But Edmonton, he's going to be swimming around, having to stop 45, 50 shots on most night. And the funny thing is, last night, I didn't watch the second half of the game, but Edmonton rallied. They didn't play badly in the first half. It was the goaltending that killed them. At a certain point, it just becomes soul crushing to them that they can't depend on the goaltending anymore. And I don't know whether Fleury is going to say, sure, I'll go there. No, I don't think he will. But you have to address it. If it's Varlamov, if it's Korpisalo, I think Elliot Friedman just said that Columbus wanted a 2 and a 3 for Korpisalo, and this is a rental. Now he's making less than $3 million. But he has played well in the playoffs. But I mean, what I don't know is, do they think that they were not good enough that it was worthwhile to trade a 2 and a 3 for Korpisalo? If that's the point, then don't trade for a goalie at all and just lose, because that's what's going to happen.
Clearly there's something that held them back from that. But I'm just going to say it like this: if Edmonton makes it to the playoffs with the current goaltending they have, it'll be similar when the Islanders had Ron Hextall in 93-94, and he had 6 goals against. Like, that's what it's going to be like. They're going to be out quickly.
Yeah, I mean, that the year before they had Osgood in the playoffs, and 93 was Glenn Healy, actually, when they went to the conference final.
Yeah, but I was talking about the Islanders.
No, I'm talking about the Islanders. 93.
93 was the Healy. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And then the following year, they got Hextall from Quebec.
Right, and then Healy went to the Rangers as the backup.
Yeah. So
yeah.
And if you needed any kind of confirmation that Tampa Bay is going to be, there's not much of a difference there. I mean, yesterday, Patrick Maroon gets 1 goal. Corey Perry, who is, ageless, he's got 14 goals, folks. 14.
He has figured out still how to score in this league. And that's incredible that he has 14 goals. It is.
Yeah. I mean, and he's going places on 1-year contracts for little or no money, because he's made his money in Anaheim, and he's trying to win a Stanley Cup. And he got to the final with Dallas, and he got to the final with Montreal, and now he probably has a good chance of getting to the final with Tampa Bay for the 3rd straight year. So, yeah. So
just remember, this is the reason that I still call the 2003 draft the greatest draft of all time, because you could go down to pick number 28, which is Corey Perry, in that first round. Like, there are some guys that missed. Don't get me wrong, Jeff Tambellini. There's some guys that missed. There's always guys.
And the huge specimen, Hugh Jessamine.
Yes. But there's always guys that miss. But the guys that hit in this draft in so many rounds, it's just unbelievable. It really is. Like, you could go into the 3rd, 4th round and find guys that have played 300, 400, 500 games. Like Clark MacArthur played 552 games in the 3rd round. He's a good player. Carcillo was in the 3rd round. You go to the 4th round, and Jan Hayda played 627 games. Kyle Quincy, 586 games. There were guys that defied the odds. You go into the 5th round, and you get Lee Stempniak, who played 911 games.
Maple Leaf legend Lee Stempniak.
Yeah.
He was traded for Thomas Steen and Carlo Koliakovo.
I interviewed him for a magazine once when he was a member of the Coyotes, and they were practicing at the class of 23 rink, which is awesome in Philly. Mm-hmm. That is on the campus of Penn University, and it was built in 1923. I've skated on that rink too, Mike. It's the oldest, I think, college rink other than Baker Rink in the United States, or second or 3rd oldest. It's incredible though. Like, it's one of those places. And so when a pro team practices there, they're all hyped up. Like, they love it. And, so that was a fun moment for Lee Stempniak. But again, Brad Richardson, 849 games. You go to the 6th round, you've got Nate Thompson, 830 games, technically still going. Mark Mathot, 624. Drew Miller. You go to the 7th round, Kyle Brodziak, Joe Pavelski. Ooh, Joe Pavelski in the 7th round.
It's funny. Funky just brought up something that I saw on Twitter yesterday or the day before. It was the anniversary of when Kyle Quincy had been traded to Detroit from Tampa, and it was the return was, and I think that was an Yzerman deal. So Ken Holland gave up a first-round pick and a throw-in the deal. The pick ended up being 19th overall, and Tampa used it to take Vasilevsky. So it's like, I mean, yeah, my God, it's just
here. This 8th round may be the greatest 8th round in the history of the NHL. Tobias Enstrom was in it. Dustin Byfuglien was in it. Shane O'Brien was in it. Like that's a pretty good mix. Yeah. The 9th round, Matt Molson, Tanner Glass. I know I'm using Tanner Glass in a positive way, but whatever.
And remember, there is no 9th round anymore. It ends after 7 now. So
Yarrow Halak, David Jones, Brian Elliott. Like this is the 9th round, which you said doesn't exist anymore.
Okay, we'll touch on this before Eck is going to join us in a couple minutes here. I saw a lot of chatter in the chat room about the Leafs. They play Minnesota tonight. Tough matchup. They've lost 3 games in a row. They made some moves yesterday, Russ, which leads me to believe that they're going to go down the Kucherov-Kane road when it comes to Jake Muzzin. Because Jake Muzzin missed a month with the concussion. Right. Now he's had his 2nd concussion. There's 9 weeks until the end of the regular season. What they did yesterday is they called up 2 players from the Marlies. They sent 1 player, Rasmus Sandin, down. It was a paper move. It got them to like within $100, I think, of the $81.5 million salary cap. And then they placed Muzzin on LTIR. So that basically sets them up to use the bulk, like almost all of Muzzin's $5.62 million cap hit at the trade deadline. Now that's conditional on Muzzin being out the rest of the regular season. If they make trades and use up all that cap space and then bring Muzzin back, then then they're going to be over the cap and they'll have to make other moves and it'll be after the deadline. So, I mean, there could be other corresponding moves. They could end up trading, a Justin Hall or trading Travis at someplace. But this tells you that I think the Leafs are going to make moves, which will make the deadline pretty interesting for me and covering the team and Leaf fans out there. But the interesting thing, and the people were talking about this in the chat, with the tragic news yesterday about Rodion Amirov.
And by the way, he did post on Instagram with a thumbs up, and I wished him well on that because I really like the guy.
Yeah.
Gutsy post. Like, I don't know what he wrote in Russian, but it's just, hey, all right, man.
Yeah, I love what the Leafs did. That Rob Del Mundo, or my friend from Fischler Report, was at the morning skate, and they filmed a video to provide a little support for Amirov and his nice. In his situation. That's a great thing. But the way the Leafs approach the deadline, the Amirov situation really is going to affect them in a way. And how it's going to affect them is, I think they're less likely to move any prospects that are in the pipeline, meaning Nick Robertson, meaning Matthew Nyes, their 2021.
Yeah, they're not going to move anybody from their top 5.
Right. Nick Aberzies, who I think is close. He could turn pro after Harvard. He may want to stay for his senior year, but he could turn pro, and he's somebody who borderline could be in the NHL.
They better sign him this year, Mike, because you know what happens if you go.
I think they will. I think there's a good relationship there. Yeah. Remember, all the Chicago Steel hierarchy.
I know, but still, you know.
And if he and Topi Niemela, as Funky said in the chat, they're not trading these guys. They're not trading them because now their prospect pool. I mean, I had Amirov as number 2 or 3.
Yeah, it shrinks when you potentially lose a player of that caliber. So
what it also means, Russ, is if they trade a first round pick, if they trade a future first, they're not going to do it for a rental like they did last year with.
No, they can't do it now.
Yeah, they are going to need to, if they're trading him for an asset, they need to trade him for an asset that is somebody that they can hold on to for a year or two. So that, I'm not saying it's going to be JT Miller because I think it's going to be a defenseman, but that that leans toward a Severson or them getting into Chychrun or somebody.
Yeah,
like
I just don't think
maybe not Chychrun, because Chychrun would be too expensive.
Yeah, I just don't think the Devils are going to part with Severson right now.
No, maybe not, but there might be other defensemen out there that have term left.
Sure, you have Jeff Petrie, you know that.
Only if Montreal retains salary on it.
I know, but even if they retain you, I don't think you want to do that.
No, I don't think so. You're probably right.
Yeah. One other thing, did want to mention the Michael Callahan deal yesterday.
Oh, so, I mean, now it was a 2024 7th round pick.
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a minute, and I'm going to be talking about on other shows, and people should be checking sportsology.com because I did a whole article on the Avalanche prospects. I'm going to do a few on some big prospects, and I'm going to be talking about it on different shows, like the Locked On Flyers show I do, as far as prospects that could move. But anyhow, with this Michael Callahan deal, and I'd seen him play up close at Providence, really good defenseman. He actually was their top pairing guy, their captain, their top power play guy. Now, again, you put that in the context of the NHL. He is a really good puck mover. He does have a good shot, so he could be a second power play guy. He could be a number 5 for the Bruins. And this is the big thing, though. If you are a Northeastern college guy, there's no way the Arizona Coyotes will draft you now, because they know there is no way you are ever going to play for them in the next 4 years, especially if they don't have a rink and they're not any good. Hey, I know players want opportunity, but they still want it on the East Coast if they're from the East Coast.
Maybe they should draft everybody from Arizona State. It'd be an easy transition.
Yeah, but this is something now they have to be worried about, as well as even be worried about drafting some Russian players who, again, are going to look at the situation and say, I am not going to want to play there. So their draft pool has shrunk.
Well, okay, and that's a good segue to what I was going to mention. How do you think, I mean, we don't know where this is going to go in Ukraine right now. I mean, everything is, we know the direction of where it looks like it's going to go, which means a full-on invasion. But how that affects the hockey world? Jeff Merrick told me that, I was on broadcast on his radio show that Jokerit is out of the KHL playoffs because they play in a Russian-owned building.
Yeah.
So that's one effect. Another effect is the IIHF in terms of approving. Remember, the World Championships are in Russia. The World Juniors in Russia next year. Whether the IIHF just pulls it because of the unstable, uncertain political situation in Russia. I mean,
they'll wait on that because they don't have any guts. They will wait on it.
They did. He did say, and you may be very well right, but they did say that the previous head of the IIHF, as opposed to Luke Tardif, he was in the Russians' pocket, not Tardif.
We'll see, Mike.
Right. I mean,
we saw what was happening in the Olympics, and we knew that by giving all those Russian players to China, they basically could get away with almost anything. They had a player dope, and that player was still allowed to skate. But here's the one thing I'll say: the UEFA actually will not going to stage their Champions League final in St. Petersburg now. Right. And so that's something where the IIHF can look at that and say, all right, they did that. Yeah. Maybe we should do it too. But you know what? They're going to wait. They're going to wait this out.
And there's talk of FIFA pulling them from the World Cup.
FIFA will never pull anything.
Right. There's big a bunch of whores, man. But here's the thing, and this is something that we have to.
I know we got to give a segue for Eck to come in here in a nice way.
But let me just finish this. The draft, Russian prospects.
Yes.
Right now, everything is really up in the air, and
they'll be able to come over, Mike, because they'll be allowed to come over, because that's not going to affect that. If a Russian player who's playing over there or lives over there wants to come here for the draft, they'll still be allowed.
Okay, segue. Act, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. I'm sorry, I was caught in the worst traffic of my life. It's just now as they are trying to completely destroy my neighborhood.
Not as bad as the traffic going out of Kiev, but go ahead.
No, I know. But
309 was never good even 15 years ago. So.
You hit it on the head there. That's where I was. Russ. I was on good old 309 near the Montgomery
road. It is.
Near the Montgomery Mall, and it was completely, absolutely absurd. Like the detour. I could have walked home faster than I drove home.
Wasn't there a household cleaner called Formula 309?
Yes. Yes, there was. And yes, I completely, I really seriously could have, I almost abandoned my car and made a run for it. Like I was like, because I'm only a mile away from my house, but it took like 15 minutes to get back. It was just crazy.
It would still take you an hour to run a mile, though. Let's be honest.
Oh no. I'm in the best of my life, bro. I am.
So I'll give you 3 guesses of what story I led the show with.
Well, there's no new sick Maple Leafs. Let me think. Sorry.
Well, it was tied to a result of a game last night.
Go ahead.
The Edmonton Oilers goal.
Oh. Yeah. Well, I mean, come on.
It keeps on giving, baby.
They've been playing better though. Come on.
I'm not saying that they didn't play better, but Mike Smith undercut them.
Okay, no, they're not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere. I mean, they can't make the playoffs though with this situation, but that doesn't really matter. It's just like, who cares? I mean,
I gave the equivalent. If they make the playoffs with this situation, I gave the equivalent of when Ron Hextall was the Islanders goalie in 93, 94 and got quickly bounced with like a six goals against the Rangers.
Yeah, Hexy was bad that year. You're right.
Bad that year, man.
He had lost it. He had gone. Hextall went downhill fast when he went downhill. Like he did.
But he came back with the Flyers and he was still good when he made it to the cup
in 97.
Yeah, he had that. He did have that one little Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Now the other story that I mentioned, Dak, and it'll be good news for you and us at Hockey Buzz, is the fact that what the Leafs did yesterday in terms of LTIR, moving Muzzin to LTIR and opening up almost $6 million.
You've seen that happening, it was. You didn't think they would do it?
No,
I predicted it.
Oh no! I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's almost as if you have to do it if you want to have chances. That's like that LTIR. I mean, I talked to Kevin about the day before yesterday, and we were saying, I said, they're going to do it because the reality is it's a concussion. Concussions are iffy. You can make anything you want out of a concussion. I mean, I really hope he's okay. Listen, I had to retire from my illustrious hockey career because of concussions. I know they're serious things. They are.
Oh, you're retired now? I didn't realize.
Well, from official.
He's still suffering post-concussion syndrome.
High intensity street hockey, Russ. I am retired. But yeah.
So why are you okay to play pickleball? Who cleared you for that?
Pickleball's not violent. Although, I will say this: my wife is a bastard sometimes.
Classic cleared him.
We were playing last night, and it was like 35 degrees out there, and slamming the ball at me like.
Who would play pickleball in February?
We have a thing that we have a rule in the house that if someone asks to play pickleball, you can't say no.
What is this, Fight Club?
It is. It's like
this is craziness.
And I last yesterday
it was 67 degrees during the day, 70 by me, and you waited until it was 35 to play.
She works late. She was home late. No choice. And listen, and I had a crazy rough day. The rumor chart always takes a piece of me.
Yeah.
And you're going through the whole thing, and I'm like, I gotta get some frustration out. So I go out there, and she is slamming the ball at me. Overhand slams, takes I still have a mark.
She's apparently getting some frustration out on you.
I know. I'm like, what the hell, man?
I mean, Eck, I'm pretty good at paddle sports. If I practice for a couple times, I could help you.
You should come over for the trade deadline, Russ, and we should play pickleball.
All right. Maybe I will.
If you want, we could do that. That'll be fun.
I was very good at paddleball back in the day. I'm not great at tennis, but the paddle aspect.
Pickleball's fun. Have you ever done it? You've never done it?
No, never done it.
Oh, it's so much fun. You'll love it. If you like paddle sports, it's really fun.
I'm good at squash, especially butternut squash.
Yeah. You probably like it too, Mike. Honestly, anybody can do it. It's like not saying that you're not an athlete.
But at least you can still play pickleball.
The way I just said anybody can do it sounded horrible, but
I'm a goalie.
Anybody can play pickleball. The reality is, and people joke about it being like a stupid sport that even Don McLean plays. But the reality is, it's like it is a fun sport. I'm sorry, I've had been in traffic.
Listen, it's on ESPN. They do have a pickleball tournament once in a while on ESPN. So
yeah, no, it is.
It's hosted by Blake Coleman.
It gives you the feeling that you get when you play racquetball a little bit, which is fun. That's a fun feeling. The racquetball feeling is fun.
Yeah. I used to play back in the day.
It has like a cool thing to it. And our pickleball, by the way, has been I'm talking hockey. I'm sorry, guys, but this is real fast. Our pickleball has been accentuated by the fact that we call it Pickleball X7, which means that we've taken it to another level. And how we've done that is we've taken, how ping pong tables can be put up on their sides.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have an outdoor ping pong table, and one day I realized that if I put the ping pong table on their sides at the mid court area, they become they're like boards at the mid court area. So you actually can use that in our outdoor pickleball.
Yeah, but do you have two of them or just one of them?
Two, one on each side.
Wow, you have two of them like that.
Because you have half the two halves of the ping pong table, so they fold up. And so it's like boards on either side, so it's kind of another little element to the game. It's kind of fun.
If you look at the Finnish game of paddle, it's very close to what you've created because they play that all the time, and it does have boards too so you've almost created that.
Okay, there you go. It's fun. It actually adds a nice element to it because it's like the way we play it. Honestly, as we say, you're not supposed to use it. It's not like something you should use as a play. But if you happen to just hit a desperate shot that uses it, that's fine. So all right.
So bye.
Anyway, back to hockey. Let's talk rumors because we're back, and I really apologize for the pre-show deal there. Okay. We can take a question. Brett in the chat room has a question. What are the Blues going to do? Do you see them making a play for a defenseman?
No.
I mean, they could use some help, but
the rumor is they're in on Sherratt.
Yeah, they are also in on Giroux. And what's funny with Giroux? I've always felt Giroux was a little bit of a better version of David Perron. I feel like they're similar players.
Yeah, I don't think that's too far off. I mean, when Perron's not concussed, he's a great player.
They're like the same size. They have the same sort of skill sets. Giroux's a little bit better at all of them, but Perron is really good too. And he was a great Blue. I could see Giroux being a great.
Yeah, I mean, you know what the difference is? Perron's obviously a better goal scorer and Giroux's a better playmaker.
Yeah, but I think Giroux has matched him with goal scoring. I think that. I mean, as time's gone on,
I'm going to give you something. I'm going to tell you something a lot of Flyers fans don't know about Claude Giroux. A few years ago, he did go to a shooting instructor and actually learned how to reshoot at different angles and do different things with the puck to pick up his goal scoring because, again, he probably saw that he was, getting up there in age and needed to get an edge, and it definitely has helped him.
And obviously, he had a huge year as a winger. I mean, the reality here is, when they had that competition in Vegas, where they were flipping pucks in the Bellagio there, and I text you guys, I'm like, Giroux's going to win this thing because and I think in a normal situation he would have. I have seen a lot of guys practice over the years, in a lot of different situations. We've been to a lot of morning skates at in especially in the Stanley Cup Finals. I go to all the morning skates, so seeing some top players. I have never seen someone who can do with the accuracy kind of what Giroux can do with the puck at times. Like he has hit, and I've seen this thing he does after practices sometimes, which is take the puck and try to nail it off of post crossbar, post crossbar. I've seen him do it 20 times in a row, which is really incredible. I mean, that's just you're not talking about hitting hitting big, giant targets.
Well, if you want, here's a good follow on Twitter at Pat Malloy Hockey. He's the guy that helped Claude Giroux.
Yeah. I mean, Claude Giroux, I asked him about it one time and he's like, listen, it came from tennis balls in my basement when I was a kid all the time. That's my thing. Just quick reflexes, quick hands, just from, hitting with in a small area, taking tennis balls off the banks. Which Capneo was also good at in his time as a hockey player. Anyway, all right, here we go.
Capneo is a semi-mobile, really just kind of a Chris Terrian-ish defenseman. Let's be
a heck of a baseman.
No, he's not a defenseman. He's 100% winger.
He plays like a defenseman.
He's terrible defensively, though. I mean, that'd be horrible. Yeah,
I thought he was okay defensively.
No, he's very good. He maybe in his old age, but he was a winger. Anyway, let's move on. Here we go. As far as what do I see the Blues? What do I hear the Blues doing? Is a good question. I honestly, Kevin and I were talking about the Blues, and it's they are a team that you feel like they're going to do something. And they are going to do something probably, but they've been very close to us. I do believe
Jake is on the show.
I do believe that there's something to remember. Something to remember is the relationship that the Armstrongs obviously have with each other, right? So Arizona and St. Louis is something that you can't really get around that. And with Arizona being so active, you have to think that that St. Louis is going to be involved in something with them in some way, shape, or form. Like,
Why don't we construct a Chychrun deal?
Yeah. Who the Blues could give up for Chychrun?
Perunovic.
Yeah, Perunovic would definitely be in the deal.
Be involved. Yeah.
I don't think they'll give up Thomas, so I don't think it would be Thomas. I think it would be Jake Neighbors and Perunovic and a pick
and a 1.
It would have to be Thomas, at least where the price.
No, I think it would be Jake Neighbors. I do.
No, but I don't think that at least where
he's already played some at the NHL level, and he can play in the NHL next year.
Yeah.
And so I think it would be Neighbors, Perunovic, and a first.
And I don't think they burned the first year of his ELC. I think they sent him down after 9 games. So
no, I think he did burn it.
I'll check.
It was close.
Well, if the thing goes, if his price tag comes down, then yes. But right where it is right now, when you're talking about
down. Let's be real.
Well, you have to have Lundell, you have to have these players in the trade. You got it.
It's not staying there.
Russ,
right now, you have to have Lafrenière in the deal. I was told that last night that Lafrenière has to be in the deal for the Rangers to make it happen.
Yeah, they're not going to
happen. Kako maybe.
Kako, I think they would do. I don't think they would do Lafrenière.
I think they would do Kako too. But right now, that's where we are. So that's why, again, I say what I think that Mr. Armstrong in Vegas in Arizona is doing, and that is using this as a bait and switch.
Yeah, that's right.
At a certain point, Bill Armstrong has to start getting bodies, because he can't keep. He's got 3 first-round picks. He's got 5 second-round picks. At a certain point, the draft capital, it's almost a negative because you have so much of it. It loses value in a sense.
And someone in the chat room brought up something that and Mr. Simon, they brought up something that I actually did hear the other day, but that involved the Rangers, and that would be that if Lafrenière is involved, Chychrun and Clayton Keller are involved. Now you're starting to talk about something that gets kind of interesting.
There's nothing left. That's it.
Right. But
Soderstrom is all that's left after that.
Right. But you're talking about, you're talking about like bringing a Lafrenière, the number 1 draft pick to Arizona.
It's still, listen, he still has to develop back. If Arizona does anything like this, not only would he be a last place team, you might finally have a point where if Connor Bedard were picked by them, that he might say to them, I am not going to play for the Arizona Coyotes. You better trade me. Like you may almost
would the Rangers do Lafrenière and a number 1 for Keller and Chychrun?
No, they can't. They can't do it.
They probably can't float it financially.
Right, because Keller's making over $7 million for 6 more years.
Let's say.
Otherwise, yes, I think
there's got to be a player that the Rangers.
Arizona. I think they would do it if
Arizona will take money. So just find money. Arizona will take that dead money you have, right? So
they would do it. Yes.
So, but I'm talking about the main characters in this. Are those?
Yeah, but there's not enough dead money there. In terms of a player short term, like, okay, great, they take Strome back. Okay, but he's an expiring contract. There's nobody, like, are you going to trade Barclay Goodrow with 5 years left on the deal? No,
they're not taking him.
They got Barclay Goodrow for a reason.
Don't they have any bad contracts right now?
No,
they really don't. I mean,
Kreider's they just extended Zibanejad. Kreider's on year 1 of a 6-year deal. Panarin's making $11 million.
You know who has been thrown around?
Not trading Trouba.
I like him is Nemeth. He's been in a lot of.
Yeah, he'll get traded.
Could he be involved? What is he making? What's he a year?
2.5 for another 2 years,
which is a crazy contract. He's not worth that.
All right.
And Adam Fox's deal hasn't kicked in yet. No. So, and then you're going to have to pay Lafrenière.
But what if they take half of? What if they hold on to some of Keller's money? I mean,
there's 6 more years.
Yeah,
they can't do that.
They can't.
They can.
How about adding Georgiev? There's a thought. Putting Georgiev.
The Rangers will not. I think here's what I think about Georgiev. Just so people understand, I believe the Rangers will ride it out with him. And if he walks into free agency, he walks into free agency because there is no real other option for them. And why would they just trade him or let him go for a 2nd-round pick? It makes no sense. He's worth more to them than he is what the asset they get in return for him is.
I want to ask you something about Lafrenière for a second, because I had a long discussion with somebody about this. Okay, he has been brought up. He's had the unique situation of all the top like highly touted number one picks we've seen in the last several years, of going to a team that didn't need him to be the guy, right? Like, and then he's probably the only number one guy that we can talk about for quite a while now that's been the case, right? Like everybody else has needed to be the guy. So he's been brought along a lot slower than most of these guys have been, most of the number one picks. Yet he's probably had less success than most of the other number one picks that we've seen.
Well,
and the feeling always for us is to bring it along slowly, right? So what do you think that do you think that we need to rethink that at all with number one picks? Do you think that number one picks shouldn't be brought along slowly?
No, for one thing, I think Gallant continues to misuse him. When he plays him in the top six, he does get goals out of him. When he plays him in the bottom six, the Rangers' bottom six is largely guys who are like Goudreau, who are not great to have Lafrenière play with. So that's a part of it. They aren't bringing him along slowly because that's the plan. They're bringing him along slowly because Gallant has forced that as the plan, and it's been bad for him, honestly.
Right, but in the end, it might not be a negative for him because guys like in the past, like Guy Lafleur, 2 or 3 years, he was sort of a secondary player for that Canadiens team.
Right. But okay, so there's two sides to this.
Yeah.
Mike is probably right on one level, but on the other level, he has lacked some confidence at times because he doesn't really get much power play time at all. And everybody of that caliber should get some power play time because it's hard to score all your goals at even strength. It just is.
Is he of that caliber, though? That's the question mark.
Yes, he is of that caliber.
Okay, because that's the question mark that people are having. Now, you watch him every game, so I don't.
No, he is of that caliber. The issue is there was always going to be an adjustment to how he might score in this league compared to how he was scoring in juniors, but he's not like a big offensive, guy who could use his body. That was never going to be the case, but he was a guy that was getting top power play time and could pick his spots on either side of the ice and score from them and sometimes score down low. I think that will still come. He's stronger this year than last year, but it's not there.
To answer your question, Nick, you have to take it on a case-by-case basis. McDavid was ready to step in right away. Matthews, the same thing. Talent-wise, physicality-wise, they were ready to step in right away. Nico Hischier, Jack Hughes, they needed a little time.
True.
And so it really, I think Lafrenière, may benefit down the line. I get what Russ is saying, and I agree with it. I mean, he's talented enough to play in their top six, but it might not be the worst thing in the world that he's not being dependent on. The thing, the reality here with the Rangers is that Kakko and Lafrenière are all going to come up for their second contracts, and they're going to have to pay them real money. And that's when, Chris Drury is going to have to decide, okay, is it better for me to pay Kakko either on a bridge deal or extend him long-term and pay him big money, or trade him for a guy that's going to help them right now, and maybe a year down the road, Russ, it is a benefit for them as the dog barks. It is a benefit for them to trade one of those guys to get a guy who's more of an immediate help. But I don't know.
Yeah. By the way, yesterday, because somebody asked in the chat room, it was not my dog barking, and it's not mine barking now because they're chewing bones because I give them bones. I tried to tell her, but anyhow, Lafrenière has 1 minute and 18 seconds on average of power play time a game.
Second power play.
But it shouldn't be the case. It's hard for him to develop when he's coming out on the ice for 20 seconds after every power play, or 25 seconds, which is all they get because the Panarin line stays out there for most of the power play.
So it's Panarin, Zibanejad, Kreider, Fox, and who's the is it Strome?
Strome.
Okay. Yeah, Strome will be gone next year.
That'll help him next year. So I get what you're saying over that. But again, when he plays with the top six, he does a lot better. And the reason he does a lot better is because he is a guy that feeds off those kinds of high skill line mates and then does elevate his game. The interesting thing, though, is, and here's the thing, and this is how you know he's still going to be a really good player. So last year he had 4 game-winning goals. This year he has 3.
Yeah.
He got 10 goals.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. And I mean, is there anything
I talk about his power play time. Like he only averages 118.
I usually trust Gallant pretty strongly. Like I'm a pretty big Gallant guy. And now do you think Gallant's trying to just build his confidence by limiting his time a little bit? And it's kind of back
because he started to play Kakko a lot more because he was playing good defense. And my joke was, yeah, that's great. You've got Kakko playing defense, but if this guy doesn't score, you're not going to have him on the team for long. You're not keeping Capo Kakko for the defense. You're not doing it.
No,
nobody's talking about how that's not coming along. So now that's not on Gallant because clearly Kakko was having issues before Gallant.
See, Russ just imitated Sam Rosen because Sam Rosen, every time he does the play-by-play is Capo Kakko. It's not.
Listen, I should only be as good as Sam Rosen.
No. But he always says his first and last name during play-by-play. It's never Kakko.
All right, I have a game we're going to play here in the last few minutes. Okay, and that is I'm going to go. We're going to have the rumor chart here, and we often talk about the players that are being talked about by everybody else because they're the hot players, and that's why everybody's talking about them. But I did some second-tier players along with Kevin the last couple of days, and we've been going into some players that have interesting that probably will get traded, and have some teams that are in some cases just like one team is very specifically like we had with Toffoli in Calgary. Like we all felt like Toffoli's going to Calgary. That's going to happen. Some of the players that we're going to talk about now are in that realm. So I think it'd be kind of fun. So by the way, rumor chart's live again. Thanks so much for everybody who joined up yesterday. I know some guys in here joined. I appreciate that. And, keep it up because we definitely need the money. All right. So here we go. So, all right. Arturi Lehkonen is a guy, who is having a very good year for Montreal. The odd thing about him is, for as bad as Montreal is, he's kept going from a good playoff last year to a good year this year, and stepped up to another level. Yet, his name is very much out there, and the Predators are very, very high on him.
Yeah, he's a Preds kind of player. I could see that.
Yeah, I can too.
Well, okay, he's one of those amongst a number of players at the deadline here. He's retainable for next year, but this is his sixth NHL season. He's 1 year away from being a UFA. He's making $2.3 million. So what this tells you, if Lehkonen's name is out there, that I don't know if that means that Jeff Gorton is not going to qualify him, but he's 1 year away, and they probably won't re-sign him when he becomes a UFA. So it's a situation where they can move him. He's got a reasonable salary, and they can get something in return that's a future. Yeah. The question is, again,
they got plenty of cap space on Nashville,
and the Preds get a second line player basically.
But the question is what is Montreal looking for in return? Montreal's got a ton of draft picks too. I don't know whether Montreal is looking for more draft picks or if they're looking for actual.
I hear they're looking for defensive prospects, and I think that I don't know the prospects very well.
I'll look over who
Nashville usually has a ton of them. There,
they have Dante Fabro, but if they trade Fabro for Lehkonen, they need.
No, I think you're looking at maybe prospects that aren't in the league yet.
They're not trading Fabro. David Ferentz.
If they trade Ferentz, they're crazy. Ferentz is going to be a terrific offensive defenseman in this league, so I don't even think they would trade Ferentz.
Luke Prokop.
Yeah, Prokop is okay. I would actually, from last year's draft, Ryan Ufko is a really good defenseman. Like that's a guy who is excelling already at UMass. I could see Gorton being interested in him because he's playing in the Boston area. He probably knows him really well.
And Kent Hughes was based in the Boston area, so he would know him too. Yeah,
there you go.
I could see Ryan Ufko being that guy.
That's what I heard that would go that trade, but that's one of those trades that feels like it's not done. I mean, you also have other teams will be involved. That's not as some of these ones we're going to get to are a little bit more interesting. Right. Than Nemestikov. We talked about him a lot yesterday, and he is
fool's gold. I'm sorry, he is.
Well,
I think he's better on Detroit than he is anywhere else. I'll say that. I think that's a situation where some guys just make sense in one place and not other places.
Montreal's got 2 firsts, 1 second, 3 thirds, 2 fourths, a fifth, a sixth, and 2 sevenths. So they're loaded in this. And maybe they want a 2023 pick instead of the 2022 pick.
No, that's why I think if they took a player like Ufko, that helps them in their situation and in their system. Heck, I look at Nemestikov. He's got 9 points in 41 playoff games. I wouldn't touch him.
Yeah, but okay, Russ. The thing is, I don't think he's fool's gold. You got to remember, he's a depth forward.
Yeah,
no, that's what Tampa Bay needs is depth. One, he's a depth forward, and 2, is somebody that they know and that they trust.
How are they affording him?
Yeah, he's really cheap.
He's $2 million, and
$2 million for Tampa is too much.
Yeah, right, but
if Detroit retains 50%,
I mean, even $1 million's too much right now. But
$1 million's too much.
But hey, there's guys who are getting
Taylor
Radish are getting headaches right now in Tampa. That
Taylor Radish for Nemestikov, and that balances it out. Then he's a 2.
Boy, that would be a horrible trade for Tampa. I mean, I get it. You're trying to win a cup.
Next guy, Edmonton and Pittsburgh, very very high on Nemestikov. And I think that, Kevin seems to think Pittsburgh's got a serious shot at them. But Kevin really feels that and I feel this as well, because I would trust Kevin with Detroit for sure. And I've heard the same thing, but just Kevin's words is better than anybody I've heard it from, that, Nemestikov will probably come back. He probably would just be
because he has done better with them, like Mike said, than really anybody
He grew
else.
up in the area, he lived with Kozlov, was his uncle. He grew up with Slava Kozlov. He's
playing time. He'll get the only team that I could see Nemestikov going to other than Detroit, and it's because they've been interested in the past, and his father works for them, is the Maple Leafs. They've liked him as a depth guy a couple times, but they're not going to trade. They may not trade for him. Maybe they would, because they're looking for an additional forward, but.
I'd be afraid to trade for him.
Remember, he's not that fast either. So this is another thing where
the thing about him, he's had some ups and downs, and you don't want to put him in a pressure situation like Toronto. I would really not think.
I agree with that. He'll fall.
He's not going to be a top 6 guy.
It doesn't matter. You're still in a pressure. Like,
I don't know if he can handle that.
Because there's no pressure at all, and the fact that he's he's from there, it's helping him. I mean, he is very American, like we talked about. Dominic Kubalik is another one who's had a rough year.
But I'd be shocked if they trade him at a low value.
Yeah, they can't afford to. I know the shine's off him, and that's realistic. But they can't trade low on him. That'll kill them.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you guys some more of the trade chart today.
Hey, MJ90, there you go.
There you go, Marcus Johansson. Every trade deadline, he's around.
There's a reason why, because
what's funny though? I would take Johansson over Nemestikov. I would.
Yeah. Here's
in Pittsburgh, he'll score.
Yeah, here's 2 situations that are not too different than the Toffoli thing. Honestly, with Max Domi and the Ottawa Senators.
No. Let's shoot this one down right now. The Ottawa Senators. Wait. Let me tell you why. The Ottawa Senators are not trading assets for a rental.
Right.
They just wait till July and sign them. Why give up anything for Max Domi?
There are reasons, I mean, this is something that, I mean, there's no question that, they're going to sign him in July. I think that's a given.
Okay.
But I also think that, there are reasons and other things that they want to do. And
I mean, that might be opportunity based, because Domi would get plenty of playing time, probably in the top 6.
Yeah, and this
Ottawa. What
I've heard is they really want to get him in, sign him, extend him before July 1st, get the whole thing together.
I don't believe the rumors, but I have heard Max Domi, because I don't get the Toronto being really in on any big forward unless they're really unhappy with their with a winger in the top 6. Which today they moved Alex Kerfoot down to the 3rd line and moved up Andre Kasha, but there has been Domi to Toronto chatter, and that would only be possible if Columbus retained 50% of his $5.3 million salary.
Even, and I know people are writing it. I don't even think the Rangers would want Domi. Even though I get it, he's not a great center. I don't think it helps their situation.
He's a winger now. He's a winger.
Yeah, I know, but I think people who are writing probably think he's going to be a center. If as a winger, they really don't need him.
Yeah, and the other player, there's no one more player on here that I want to add to this list, and that is down the list. I'll just tell you who it is. And that is Cal Clutterbuck, who is another one of these. Who seems
he's getting traded for sure.
Destined. It's not over yet, Mike, but it's getting there. And he is destined to Colorado. It feels like in every which way. Like it feels like that. Sakic likes him, even though Colorado is going to pick up something else too.
I can see that
space to do it. It feels like he is the perfect fit for them.
I could see him with it. Like, tell me he's not a perfect fit with Calgary. The way he plays, or Minnesota where he was before.
I don't know if Minnesota would want him. I could see Pittsburgh going after him.
Well, right now it's like a one team game basically. The other one single player, and this is
you're not putting Ross Johnston on the list.
No, not yet. Mm-mm.
Andy Green, you're not putting Andy Green on the list.
Nope.
Zdeno Chara,
not yet. He will be. Chara will be. But apparently
Varlamov, you're not putting him on the list.
Varlamov's on here. But apparently the
Alpo Mary.
No, they can't get rid of him.
Stop it.
They just can't.
Riley Smith, okay, who is obviously
here we go
with the Vegas Golden Knights, right? And but may have to move because of this.
He's not moving.
I don't think he's going to move. I think they're going to.
Stone is going to be out till April 29th.
Yeah. And it's very possible, and it's also possible that if that happens, that the Vegas Golden Knights don't make the playoffs. I'm telling you that right now.
No, come on. And then the water from the Bellagio fountain will be healing, and they will rub him in that water, and he will miraculously come back on May the 1st for Game 1.
That is a bold prediction, saying that the Vegas Golden Knights may not make the playoffs. Like, come on,
Mark. I'm going to tell you right now. That is my prediction. That if Mark Stone does not return before the end of the season, the Vegas Golden Knights will not make the playoffs.
Please, somebody clip that and just say that.
Yeah, go for it.
I just recorded it.
I'm convinced.
What leads you to that?
Because he is their best player, and they are playing, and Eichel is not ready to be even a half of him right now.
Right.
And they taking him out to put Eichel in is just ridiculous. Now there could be a point here. I could see this happening, where Eichel's like, he's not getting it together so quickly, so we're gonna take him out of the lineup again, or give him some more tests for his neck or whatever, and then pull him out for a while. And now he's played enough games; he can play in the playoffs again. But you have to bring Stone will return. He has to return. They know he has to return because they cannot make the playoffs without him. That is my theory.
Who's knocking him out? The Oilers?
Yeah,
the Kings.
I'll take either of those teams. Either of those teams possibly.
The Dallas.
I just don't see it.
Possible. It's possible. Shoot, got to run, guys.
All right,
guys. Thanks so much for watching the show. We'll be back again tomorrow on Friday. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. See you.